What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Shake Chatterjee, and we're back with another episode of Life Is Blurry. So today we have Rodrigo back for part 2 of a topic that we barely scratched the surface of. So Rodrigo is a world-renowned expert in Unani biotypes, which he explained quite well in the previous episode. I will let him briefly run back into what we were talking about before we get a deeper dive into attraction. And we're going to use some really good examples, I think. Examples that you might find very familiar. So if you don't mind, Rodrigo, well, first of all, thank you so much for being here. If you don't mind jumping into the brief overview of what Unani biotypes are, and then we could talk about the real topic of today.
Yes, more than happy to be back, my friend. Well, last time we started describing that Unani biotypes is an ancient way of understanding people and classifying who they are because of our physical features. So just by looking at someone, we can know what's their main biotype, and that tells us information about their behavior, their health, even the weather, climates, and humidity that they should be in order to stay healthy. The Greeks created this, then Islamic medicine took it to a new level, and now it's practiced in India as Unani Tib.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that all makes sense, and it is interesting because these different biotypes exist within all races and groups of people. So, one of the interpretations of opposites attract means you're physically opposite, maybe in geographic contexts, right? Like having fairer skin, darker skin, et cetera, et cetera. But even within those characteristics, you have these biotypes. So you essentially are looking for an opposite, but not necessarily what you see with. It's not their hair color. It's not their skin color. It's not their eye color.
Yes.
It's more like how they're built.
Yes, 100%.
That you need to complement.
It's their core. It's literally the core. The core through which they live life and interpret life and take decisions about reality. That's it. Cholerics are impulsive. Phlegmatics are emotional. They compensate each other beautifully. Sanguines live in action. Melancholics live in their heads. They balance each other out beautifully. So for ages, it was like that.
So what happens if you, I was on the show, right? This one reality show, and I understand that based on Unani biotyping, my match on that show and I shared similar biotypes, right? And is that, or would you say the same biotype?
You're
similar
both
biotype?
the exact same biotype.
The exact, okay.
I saw that distant show you're talking about.
Okay, you saw that show. Okay, good. So just so I understand correctly, putting it in my own words, it's like a battery, right? You need a positive to go to negative. If you have two positives, they repel each other. Is that kind of the same deal with the Unani biotypes in a sense?
Yes and no, because it's true that opposites attract within their track, but I feel like this will make more sense if you allow me to talk about like you and that relationship. Can I?
Okay, I think that'd be great. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so what you guys had was extremely interesting. It was not biological because attraction without actually meeting someone is impossible when it comes to biology. Like the way people meet, and this applies to many like social media platforms and a lot of dating apps. Like when you cannot experience the beingness of the other person, when you cannot experience them physically, when you cannot experience who they are, all you can base your attraction on is psychology. It's like your belief system, how you identify yourself, what you think is attractive, what you don't think is attractive, etc., etc. But that is extremely unconscious. People don't know what they're attracted to. This is pure psychology and personalities. People do not know what they're attracted to. Like the worst thing that you can do to a couple in a mall, for example, if they're sitting on a bench, holding hands, loving each other like crazy, the worst thing you can do to them is walk up to them and say, "Why are you attracted to each other?" Because you're going to see two people trying to make up something logical and coherent in their head to justify why they feel attracted, because the truth is that they have no idea.
Okay, yeah, I love that because it's not something conscious. It's not necessarily a choice in a lot of ways. Yeah, in most ways.
And at the same time, attraction when it comes to psychology is extremely trauma-based. extremely trauma-based. And there was a trauma bonding in the relationship where you guys were that made total sense for a friendship, not necessarily for something romantic. Like with what I saw in your relationship first, both of you were the exact same biotype. Both of you are extremely emotional. Both of you, even though you have a different mask, and we can talk about that later, mask sounds horrible, but mask is a way in which we hide within our personality so that people cannot hurt us. So, for example, I created a mask of arrogance because I felt like people were going to reject me really early on as a kid. Like we all have little masks like that. And the way you portray it is different through your personalities, but you both have a very similar thing, which is everything about you has to do with your understanding of yourself because of the relationships around you. And that's something typical that phlegmatics do. Really caring about how people feel around them. And even the way you're being open about having this conversation is not something that an arrogant controller would do. It's something that only a person that really cares about other people's opinions and really cares about how other people perceive each other and how they connect to each other would allow, which makes total sense as a phlegmatic.
Okay, all right. I agree with all of that for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay.
Now, having said that, the really important thing is because of the way people are meeting up in shows like this, in social media, everywhere, we're only allowing your ego to look for attraction. And your ego will always feel attracted to the things that, according to your beliefs, are real. Does that make sense?
I have a good idea of what that means.
Okay. So in case people listening that don't understand what beliefs are, because I know that you have an important academic background, but the difference between ideas and beliefs is my ideas are mine. Like if people like to read philosophy, look for Ideas versus Beliefs by Ortega y Gasset, the Spanish philosopher. He was the first one describing this. And he would say, my ideas are mine. I own them. I'm aware of my ideas. I can share them. I can transform them. I can throw them away. If someone challenges my ideas, I don't get offended. It was only an idea. But I am owned by my beliefs. My beliefs are completely unconscious to me, and they're the reality through which I try to connect with the world. They're the filter with which I interpret reality itself. So, to give you an example, if at some point growing up, I look at my dad being aggressive towards my mom, and I love my dad, and this is painful to watch, and I want to keep on being a part of this family and loving my parents. So I need to find a way to normalize this so that the pain doesn't hit me that hard. If I understand it, then it's normal. And if it's normal, I don't need to experience the pain. So as a defense mechanism growing up, it's beautiful because thanks to that, I could still carry on belonging to my family no matter what I saw growing up. The problems will begin when I'm older, when I'm an independent adult and I'm choosing friends and like people that I want in my life around me, romantic relationships. They will need to gather whatever I normalized in my past as something true about human beings. So my decisions about women, about men, about love, about money, I will need to see them manifesting in someone so that I can fall in love with them. And that whole falling in love and gut pull that we experience when we meet someone and we experience all of them is because our ego in our head is realizing that we have someone in front of us that gathers most of the beliefs that we have about either that gender or that relationship, and then we feel like we're massively attracted to them. It validates our past, in other words.
It's a confirmation bias in a sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So we look for an opportunity to confirm everything that we already think.
Yes. And that's why people are looking for patterns like, of course, if you had a really controlling mom, you'll fall in love with someone who's controlling. Sadly, it's not that direct. Like the connection is not that direct. If it were, all siblings would be exactly the same.
All right, good point.
And they're not. Now, what we can find is that the way I interpreted my mom will define what I find attractive in women. The way I interpreted my dad will define what I find attractive in men.
I see. I can see that. Okay.
And that's where you see the total connection. And not only those like mainstream, how do I call this? Like sound bites that we want to give people that sound amazing but are not necessarily accurate. Like if you want accuracy, we have a full program that we do, like a full workshop that we do so that people walk out with the lists of what their ego is looking for and what to be aware of when you're creating a relationship. Because you do need a little bit of your egoic attraction. Like, can I give you a complex example about myself?
Please.
Okay, so my mom's melancholic. She lives in her head. My dad's sanguine. He lives in action. See, again, the typical opposing relationship of sanguines and melancholics. My parents-in-law are exactly the same. Sanguine man, melancholic woman, which is always interesting. But I grew up watching, because of my parents' trauma, and I'll just share like briefly because I like to be respectful of their relationship too and privacy, but because of my parents' trauma compatibility, my dad on one side kind of never felt good enough and kept gathering degrees and master's degree and PhDs to know if he was ever going to be good enough. My mom on the other side was afraid of men. She comes from a northern Spain family that didn't really care about women, and she always felt like if she surrendered or gave herself to a man that loved her, it doesn't matter if it was a friend, a sibling, a parent, or a romantic relationship, she would put herself in danger. So they had traumatic compatibility, someone that didn't feel good enough and someone who's afraid of people mistreating them. That's a match made in heaven when it comes to trauma compatibility. Because when she's afraid to surrender and give into the relationship, he assumes that it's because he's not being good enough. And then he pushes harder to be a better man. And when he is being a better man and a little bit more loving and pushy, that triggers like my mom's fear of what's going to happen if I actually give in to this person and surrender to their love, which would make her act a little bit more independent, which reminded him that he wasn't good enough. Oh, and that's how the cycle just keeps on going for the rest of life. So for years, the only thing I could be attracted to was melancholic women that were afraid of men.
Okay. That's actually it. That you picked that right up from that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We all do the same.
Now, would you mind just, so the listeners, they can do what they please with this information.
Yes.
But me and my match on the show, could you
Yes.
could you break that down a little bit, and then even maybe another match that might be somewhat memorable that people could maybe...
Oh, there's another one that has traumatic compatibility times 10. So we can talk about that as an example too. So first, yours. Okay. You both have the same biotype. You're both phlegmatic. You both really care about people. But at least in my opinion, from what I've seen, she has a supporting personality. You seem to have more of an analyzing personality, which is a little bit of what we were talking about last time, that you act a little bit like a melancholic, and that's also why you're so skinny. Your biotype would not be so skinny just because. That means that you spend a lot of time in your head and that you really care about certain things that most of the times phlegmatics don't seem to care about.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to biotypes, you shouldn't be attracted to each other. Even when you have different personalities, you should have never been attracted to each other.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's hard for two phlegmatics to be in a relationship together. It's usually extremely dramatic.
Got it.
Because they're both emotional. And they both don't get angry, they get offended. So they both need to keep guessing what the other one is offended about, which makes it challenging.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then on top of that, because of your personalities, it has to do with this. I'll ask some questions if you don't mind, so that certain things land properly for you.
Yeah.
But I believe that the way you bonded has to do with a little bit of the loneliness of not understanding the world around you completely, and you're both people that had to independently find your way and find your path and decide what you wanted from your past and what you want in your future. And that whole idea created such a bond in how you understood each other. But it's like you stood before a mirror of someone with the same biotype and a very similar path of growth. Now, let me ask you a couple of questions to support you in this and make it clearer for everyone.
Okay.
First, if you had to choose, 5 elements, 5 ways of being that defined what you see the most about your mother growing up. And we're not really talking about your mom. We're talking about perception that you had. If I describe my mom and someone else describes her, you're going to think that we're talking about different people because we're talking about the reality of interpretation that we created. So what were the
boy.
5
Okay.
elements growing up that you saw in your mom that were the most relevant?
Oh God, I don't know. This is a tough one. I mean, I'm very close with my mom and my dad. I talk to them both every day, but I've never stopped to think in these terms. So,
I can give you a tip.
I don't know. Okay.
It's
give me a
not
tip.
about who she was with you. It's about what you saw, like of her in relationships. Like, was she really open, really loving? Is she more private? Like, what are 5 elements that would describe her a little bit?
Yeah, okay, yeah, she is very open. She's like kind of just open to saying whatever she thinks. And it's not that she always has the most popular opinion, but she's not afraid to say it. She's very self-confident. She knows she can, even if she had nothing, she'd make it, kind of attitude, and she takes a little to open up completely to people, even though she's comfortable saying stuff to people. But like, as far as like, if she were to start a new job, I know this to be a fact. If she were to start a new job, people would like initially kind of be intimidated by her and maybe not like her as much. But like if they got to know her, they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're my favorite person. Kind of like that. Because I know I got some of that from her too. So like, I kind of know. Yeah.
You're describing something that in Unani biotypes we know as a phlegmatic fake fire. A phlegmatic fake fire is a human being that's deeply emotional, really cares about relationships, really cares about people, but at some point in their life they discover that being so emotional and allowing other people to like know them too well would make them an easy target or easy to manipulate or easy to control. So they create this mask, this persona of being a little bit stronger than they actually are, so that they know that they're safe, and then after that they can show a little bit of the softness.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. And I don't think I've ever heard anyone describe it as well. When my parents watch this back, I think they're going to agree with you completely. When Emily watches this back, I'm sure she's going to, learn something from this too. So awesome.
I'm glad to hear that, my friend, but here's the next step for you.
Oh, shit. Okay.
This is why you're attracted to people that challenge you first and love you after. And this is why you don't respect people that like you right off the bat. And this is why you're being able to navigate rejection and whatever people are saying so well, because you're actually used to this.
Yeah, I'm used to it. I'm used to it. Yeah, totally. It's like, how are you taking this so well, Shake? Like, nothing new for me.
It is not new. Like, you've gotten used to proving yourself constantly because that's what you decided was attractive. And that's why if a girl likes you right off the bat, you're not that attracted to them. But if someone first rejects you and you need to prove yourself and how cool you are, they have all of your attention.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, I think in general, it's like, when it comes too easy, it's unattractive. I will say that, like in a very general sense. It doesn't necessarily have to be that like I get rejected, but it has to be someone that like we're on the same footing. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I have to have you. It's like I really want you because I respect you. You know what I mean?
Yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. And sometimes I have trouble with using like some coaching and psychological terms that socially mean something way more dramatic. Like when I say explosive or when I say rejection, just for you to know. When we use rejection, we don't mean like someone socially rejecting you. When we use rejection is like I'm kind of attracted to you, but there's a part of you that I'm afraid of. Like there's a part of you that might be dangerous, that I want to avoid a little bit because I know the danger that happens because of that. It's
totally.
It's what they call in certain circles like the shit sandwich. Like if I give you acknowledgement with a little bit of rejection and a little bit of acknowledgement in the end, and the person has certain beliefs about having to be feisty or certain negative beliefs about themselves, they will love you. Like you're amazing, but this is kind of sucky about you. But this is amazing about you too.
I've heard it called a compliment sandwich, not a shit sandwich. I feel like compliment sandwich sounds a little bit better because, we're talking about the bread being the compliments.
Exactly.
And then, yeah.
And the negative feedback being like hidden in the middle. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. It just sounds better than a shit sandwich.
It does. But, I agree.
I totally pick up what you're saying. And to me, it's just, I'm going to automatically respect respect your fear of me.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, well, it's like you barely know me. Like, how could you possibly like me that much? You don't even know me. Like, I want you to like think through it. Because you know what I don't want? I don't want to be in this 2 years from now and it's like, I didn't know this side of you. It's like, it was there from the very start. Why didn't you, like you chose to ignore it then? I want to bring those issues to light, and I want to be the first to say, hey, just so you know, this is the deal. This is what you're getting yourself into. Like, think about it. And I won't be upset.
But that's like, I totally agree with you. But that's at the same time why you get into trouble, because most people don't want that. And it's based on a part of your psychology that I understand and makes total sense. And we're starting to describe it with what you saw in your mom and what you thought being powerful and loving is. Like, all of this is described by that. But most people are not okay with even the slightest level of rejection. Most people are not okay with even the slightest level of confusion or discomfort. And because of your personality, you actually enjoy it and you think that it's important. So when you're saying things like, I'm bringing reality here, I'm being 100% honest, yes, you are, but your perspective is extremely scary for other people.
Yeah, the honesty. Yeah.
But
okay.
Because for them, it's not honesty. For them, it's you bringing some sort of uncomfortable angle to the relationship where we're all just saying nice things and making each other feel nice. And they're not right, they're not wrong, you're not right, you're not wrong, you just have different trauma compatibility.
I'll tell you this. There's a time and a place for everything.
Yes.
If everyone is here trying to keep it pleasant, it's Thanksgiving dinner. Like, yeah, I'm not going to keep it real at Thanksgiving dinner, right?
A lot of people
like
try.
I'm not one to keep it real at Thanksgiving dinner. I will keep it real at a place where everyone is picking on me and all their transgressions are going unnoticed. That's when I'll keep it fucking real. If you're gonna bully me and gang up on me and pretend like you're Mr. Perfect, that's when I'll keep it real. And I think I want to make you uncomfortable. I'm gonna make you face what you got away with, because if you're gonna throw it in my face, then don't think I'm just gonna roll over for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, but you need to be a little careful with that, because that's not necessarily what it is for other people. So this is why it's so important to understand personalities and biotypes, because like sometimes my wife says that I have way too much patience with people. No, I don't. I just understand where they come from. When it comes to their biotype and their personality, I understand where they come from. And the come from for the people that don't understand or like the type of spaces that you create with your personality are people that probably went through certain things in their lives that felt dramatic or uncomfortable and are trying to avoid those ways of being, and therefore for them they look like toxic. And they're right about it. Like, it's not the truth or not the truth, it's just their truth. So in their minds and in their emotions, it feels completely like you're dragging them through the mud and putting them in the dirt. Like, look at this is reality, you get to check it. But if you're completely transparent with yourself, it's part of your getting to know people process and being authentic yourself so that people are comfortable with you. So it's not like you're trying to just bring reality. You're saying, we need to handle the dirt first, because if not, it will happen later. Let's be brutally honest, let's show who we are. And for a lot of people, that's aggressive, my friend, even a little bit hostile.
Yeah, the reason that dirt was brought up is because I was in the wolves' den. You know what I mean? And I was surrounded by enemies, and these were enemies were the people I had good friendships with just not long before that. Yeah. But they all of a sudden they like show me another side to them. I feel completely disposed of. And I did what any like hurt person would do in that situation, and that is I lashed out.
Can I give you some feedback about what I saw in that episode?
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like you were in a very specific stage. I feel like you were ready to put a lot of things on the table that a lot of people weren't ready for, but you also threw yourself in front of the wolves like 5 times when they weren't even talking about you. That talks about a need that you had to come clean about certain things and be open about certain things. But we come back to the same thing. The way you process information and the way you present it, it's not the same for every biotype and every personality. And I do agree with you is, even though you threw yourself there were a couple of people that didn't know how to react and probably took sides, and that wasn't necessary. You could have avoided that 100%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know that it seemed that way. That it's like, why was I starting something? But it was more to it than that because I don't want to get into the details of it. But
I know.
let's just say that there's complex relationships I had with everybody. That right, like once the show came out and like the public perception became clear, it was like, oh, you have a bad image, like.
Yeah.
Like I like just like dropped kind of thing. You know what I mean? And like some people and I talk about this on some of my other podcasts, but like as recent as 5 days before that reunion, who I was with, like hanging out with, it was people from the show.
Yeah.
And everything was cool then. It's just that now that the cameras are on, it's like it's different. You know what I mean? They like waited for their opportunity. I'm like, now's when you want to go after this. And it was a hostile situation. And that, like, let me put it this way. What you didn't see before the cameras start rolling put me in that situation. It's not like I showed up ready to fight.
I believe
what
you.
I mean?
I believe you. Like I also saw
Yeah.
the impulse that you had, and that could have been created because of that event before that was not in front of cameras. Can I support you with something?
Yes, please.
Because I feel like there's a lot of you that people don't seem to understand, and I actually get you. Not to justify you, but I think I understand certain things. But I want to support you in putting certain things out there about who you really are and what your true intentions are, so that haters also know that there's a foundation to who you are and what you're portraying to the world and creating. Like,
Yeah.
what moves you? What moves you emotionally? What makes you stop on your tracks for a second and go like, look at that. Observe the world for a minute because it fills your heart.
The generosity of strangers. The kindness of strangers. That always gets me. People helping each other where there's like nothing to gain. Just one person helping another person, or like one entity giving another entity a chance or an opportunity. And I've been so lucky throughout my life. That's kind of been like a recurring theme through my life. I've just always found like I've like been in the most random situation. Like, I don't know, just like my friends had to leave early. I'm like suddenly here by myself. Like, now what? What am I doing? I'm alone all of a sudden. But then like the generosity or kindness of a stranger, a group of strangers, it's like next thing you know, I'm like on a plane somewhere. Like, and like stuff like that's happened to me in my life where like something that just happens in an instant. And I've seen it happen to other people too in different contexts, but that's always something that blows me away.
What hurts you about other people? Like, what do you see in people and relationships that when you observe it from afar, it feels wrong? Like it shouldn't be like that.
Honestly, probably just any kind of deceit or manipulation, I would say. Okay, maybe it's because I'm so used to rejection that I feel this way. That's a new way to look at things. Maybe because I'm so used to rejection, I'm like, yeah, just reject me if you're not into me. Like tell it to me straight. Don't like beat around the bush. Don't like pretend to be a certain way. Don't like, whatever. And because I feel that is such a legitimate way to be, I think it's frustrating when other people like, they would rather just like say sorry and it's fake or tell a lie than to like say the truth, even though the truth can be said politely. Sometimes it's avoided altogether, and I just don't like that.
You have a very harsh comfort zone, my friend.
A whatish?
Harsh, like
Horish?
No, harsh, as in
Oh, God.
an uncomfortable place, like your comfort
Damn,
zone.
I've been called horish before, but not in this context. So I was
Not by a therapist.
Yeah. All right.
No, what
harsh.
I mean is your comfort zone seems uncomfortable. Like, and most people's are, because our comfort zone is just the pain that we're used to and the dynamics that we're used to, no matter how destructive they are. And you have a comfort zone that includes conflict permanently. And that's interesting. You thrive in conflict. Like, look at you making a podcast in the middle of a storm.
Yeah, I thrive in conflict, I guess.
And what that means,
Just like Kobe, he always hit those jumpers with a hand in his face.
some people just do better under pressure. And
Yeah.
it makes total sense. But it's like you respect people that somehow bring conflict because you don't sound like a victim. Like, even though a little bit, like we all have a little bit of a victim mindset, but the way you describe your relationships with the people from the show, for example, is mechanical. Like there's no hidden emotion about what they did to me or something like that, but more like the logic of, oh, this conflict shouldn't have gotten out of hand. Like this conflict was just being real with each other. Why are you reacting like this? Which means you've normalized conflict more than most people. And that's why you don't get the way people are reacting to you. And
Okay, no, this is good. This is really good, man.
and at the same
This is really
time,
good stuff. Yeah.
you've given the information that you've given me so far, it's like the best way to lose respect from you is to just adore you.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I like to be adored, but it's so much more powerful
When you feel
it's
like you earned it.
Exactly.
I know.
And that's with everything. I want to. Yeah, exactly. That is a very, very eye-opening.
Do you know what that means?
What?
The interpretation of it feels more valuable when I earned it, it's completely made up. Because we as humans justify our patterns by making them look better like we chose them. And the thing is, you didn't choose to be attracted to this. But guess what? Sexual and physical attraction are completely linked to the ego. So now we know what turns you on, my friend.
It's the conflict.
A little bit of conflict and a space in which you can prove yourself and your worth must turn you on like nothing.
Yeah, man. No, dude, totally.
And I just saw you being on a show with someone that was trying to accept you completely. There is no human way for you to experience sexual desire towards that.
Yeah. I mean, there's parts of that, and there's other things too that we'll never be able to get into on this that also contributed to the lack of attraction. But that leaving the show out of it, let's leave the show out of it.
Sure.
But in a general sense, you are correct. Like absolutely correct.
Most people have no idea what they're sexually attracted to because again, it comes from our beliefs and we're not aware of our beliefs. But to give you an example, we even say things like we only take the love that we think we deserve. If I feel that I'm valuable, then I can only feel comfortable with people that love me in the same way that I perceive myself. Not in the way that I talk about perceiving myself, but how I actually perceive myself. And if I think that I'm, I don't know, an 8 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10, I can only receive love as a 6 out of 10. And if someone treats me like an 8, I don't believe them. And I think that they want to fool me or manipulate me or what's your hidden agenda? Or if you're so perfect, why are you single? And if someone loves me as less than the number that I think I am, I just don't take it because I know I'm worth more than this. But when someone arrives and loves me at exactly the grade that I give myself in my beliefs, I feel seen and I feel understood.
Well, this is all very interesting, but okay, so I'm in this relationship with a girl named Emily. She's fantastic. She's an 11 out of 10 in my eyes. She's so hot. She's so amazing. Personality, ambition, everything. And she adores me too, may I say. She is so affectionate. She adores me, and I'm totally into it.
Yes.
And so what you're saying is true, but it's not like she's challenging me every day. She does push me to be better, and that's totally there. And she has her own concerns, and she's open enough to voice those concerns, and that is incredibly attractive. And when that happens, I do see and feel the relationship taking a step forward.
Yes.
Because it's okay, this is real now. This is real. You care enough to tell me what you don't like about me. That means there's something here. That means your eyes are open.
That's all interpretation to justify. That's literally your ego feeling extremely happy because you feel seen, because her way of being is compatible with what your ego believes is true.
Her way of being is fire, let me tell you.
I love that. And if you bring her on, I can prove the point to you because...
I would love to. Okay.
Bring her on.
Not today.
Fun.
Not today,
Okay.
but yeah, we will. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Let's do it.
Can't wait.
Because we can see the traumatic compatibility between you two, and I can teach you how to protect each other from what your egos will try on the relationship.
Oh, that sounds awesome, man.
That's literally
I'm
what
totally
I teach.
into
Like I even work with like the Orthodox Jewish community of Latin America, being a Catholic, and I have permission to work with them because of the technology that I created as traumatic compatibility in relationships, which is understanding what trauma attracted you to me and how not to trigger it.
Bro, my mind is blown. Like, we had a good session last time, but this session just like, because you really nailed it today, and I wanted to fight it. A lot of it, I'm like, no, I got it. No. But no, dude, yeah, you got it. This was good. I mean, there's nuance to it, of course, but like as a whole, I think you got closer than anybody else has gotten from like having met twice. Okay, so that's like
Beautiful.
Yeah, I do though. I mean, if you don't mind using another example that people might relate to. I mean, it could be anybody in pop culture. It could be from a reality show, whatever you want.
Like another example of traumatic compatibility?
Or just like a couple that you can break down using your terms that other people might be familiar with.
Well, I can give you an example that I saw on TV recently.
Was it Will Smith?
No, but that works.
Okay.
I can describe that too.
Okay, who are you gonna go with? I don't want to,
I was actually thinking of some like another relationship close to yours that I also watched, but we can take something else if you want.
Okay, no, go ahead.
There was a really interesting moment in that show. Okay. Do you have any idea how fascinating it is for me to watch something where I can prove my psychological theory about what happens when people don't get to experience each other and all they have is information about the like personality of the other human being? I was able to see traumatic compatibility unfold before my eyes. Like it was the best test for my theory I've ever seen. And there was one relationship, not naming names, but there was one relationship where Insecurity found guilt and they became best friends and then lovers and then married each other.
Interesting. Okay.
Because what we had on one side of the relationship is no matter how much they tell me that I'm beautiful, no matter how much they tell me that I'm great, no matter how much they tell me that I look great, no matter how much they give me reassurance, I am not confident about who I am.
Okay.
And that's not compatible with everyone. Like that's someone that
I know who you're talking about now, but
of course you do.
Yeah.
And like that type of personality can only trigger someone who has guilt. Like that will only be attractive to someone who has guilt because everyone else would go like, I cannot deal with this anymore. Like I cannot carry this around anymore. Like this is not my fault. This is not my problem. And you're just reacting to things that are happening as ghosts in your head. And again, it's not her fault. Like people are just like that. People experience trauma and have it in their head all the time. And if we don't know how to process it and let it out of you, you just live like that for the rest of your life. That's why we say pain is mandatory, but suffering is optional. If you feel pain, you either deal with it now or you'll deal with it in 20 years. Like it will come out. There's no way to hide it. But those years pretending like you don't have it, we call it suffering. Because you're not fully present for life. There's a filter telling you that life is something else. So the filter of someone who feels insecure, like this girl, is what are people doing to me? Like, if I feel insecure, how is the world bringing this to me? It's Rotter's theory of locus of control. Like, if people want to know what a victim mentality actually means, all they need to do is go online, look for Rotter, psychologist in the 50s, American, wrote the theory locus of control. That's a psychological explanation of victim mentality, an external locus of control, which is something we usually have, especially if we're still holding on to pain. It's very human. Now, on the other side, if we have someone who's powerful with a choleric biotype, which is one of the most dominant, independent, and impulsive biotypes that there are. And if he has a little bit of guilt, then insecurity and guilt will marry and stay together forever because she has an explanation for her insecurity and it comes from him. And he has an explanation for his guilt and it comes from her.
Got it.
And then as soon as they can make that loop where he's constantly trying to be good enough not to feel guilty and she's constantly feeling insecure and looking for what's missing in order to feel complete, remember, nothing creates attachment in human relationships like anger.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. First of all, awesome breakdown. Love that. But while we're on the subject, one of the things that I had way too much fun telling my friends, family, whoever would listen about is your top three. What is it? Top three elements for compatibility, or is that what you call it?
The three levels of attachment.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. The three levels of attachment.
It's crazy.
Because we know number three is love.
Number three is love.
Because love is not enough. Love is not enough. Okay.
It's so true.
Number two is sex. We get that.
Yes.
Sex has got to be fire for you guys to, keep this party going. And then number one, I want explanation on is anger. I mean, what is the anger? Tell me about that. Just explain that. You have to be angry at each other? Is it how you handle each other's anger? What is it?
Okay, first let's break it down like this. Just anger itself. Who do you think the most important person in the world is right now for the president of Ukraine?
His wife?
No.
I don't know. I thought you were leading me into some kind of relationship stuff.
No. I'm breaking down anger
first. Is he married even? I don't know.
He is married, according to what I know. But the most important person in the world, the person that he must be thinking of and dedicating more time and energy to in his life right now, must be Vladimir Putin.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That guy, yeah.
One of my teachers used to say, love someone and you'll want to be with them 2 or 3 times a day. But get mad at someone and you just glued them to your face and made them the only topic of conversation that you're interested in right now.
Ah, yes. Okay, so this isn't about... oh my God, I've been ruining your whole thing. I thought it was for romantic success. These are the 3 things.
No.
Hate, sex, and love, or anger, sex, and love. No, okay. I'm glad we clarified.
Yes, it's
this
important.
Could have been awful. Okay, all right.
What we're saying is,
in general.
Exactly. These are the like situations or emotions that create attachment in human beings. And by attachment, we mean you're so connected to this that you cannot let it go. And that could be positive or negative. Like we're not classifying how it works in practice. What we're saying is that we know that if you love someone, you have the 3rd highest level of attachment with that person. If you're having amazing sex with someone, you have the 2nd higher level of attachment known to human beings. But if you're angry at someone, you have the highest level of attachment and you'll dedicate a ridiculous amount of energy and time to that person, that event, that situation, whatever that is. That's why we see so many old couples that are still together. There's no talk of divorce whatsoever. You don't see a lot of love. They're not having sex anymore. But as long as they're fighting each other, there's not splitting up.
Yeah, the fighting actually keeps people together in a weird way because there's all those chemicals and hormones and, cortisol, all that stuff.
Yes.
And then,
And because there's something that's very true about human beings, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, but as a species, it's true. We've lived in peace for very little time. Like humanity has found balance and peace instead of war, and the ability to just like stretch your hand and get some food instead of fighting for it for very, very little time. Especially when you think of evolutionary psychology and how much the brain has changed since we went from hunter-gatherers killing each other like crazy to the lives that we have today. Humans need conflict. And if you don't give them conflict, they'll create it. That's why if you go to like the first world and the people that have the most comfortable lives, they'll just create a new level of conflict and gossip and whatever is needed in order to stay attached and interested.
Yeah. No, this is great, man. Wow. This is so true. Man, we're getting even better and better each time. All right, we're gonna have to wrap up soon here, but we should definitely do a part 3.
Yes.
Let's give it I need to digest this, take a few weeks to digest. Tanya and I will be in touch to, strategize.
Bring your girlfriend. We'll do your traumatic compatibility.
I would love to. And then also, an Instagram live coming up. But why not for today, you just let everybody know where to find you because they don't want to wait till the next time we talk. They're going to be blowing up your DMs. Let them know where to find you, Rodrigo.
They can find me in RGP Development, both in TikTok and Instagram. We do lives there where we just opened the TikTok. We're uploading videos there with a lot of information. And if they want to register to any of my workshops or get like personal coaching from me, I work with couples, I work with individuals. They just need to go to rgpdevelopment.com.
Boom. You heard it here first. pumped to have you on today, and then again in the near future. We'll say thank you so much. I need to go like lay down or something. My mind is blown, but it was so good, and I know everybody in my life that I've been talking to about this kind of stuff, they're gonna love it. So thank you everybody for joining us on today's episode of Life is Blurry. We cannot wait to see you next time. Thank you so much.